And that's combined with a massive degrading of the command and control systems in the Russian Federation, combined with technical difficulties and unwillingness to spend a lot of money in China to upgrade and move forward with their systems, although they're going to do it anyway, eventually. The result is that the Russians have done something extremely dangerous. They have what's now called a dead hand system, and that means that they're not relying any longer on the survivability of their command and control system. Each a silo complex, and they call them divisions and regiments in the Russian strategic forces, has a series of has the ability under certain conditions to launch independently without an order from central command. These conditions are two. One is that they have set seismometers. They must pick up an evidence of a nuclear detonation on Russian territory, and that is now very easy to distinguish from other seismic signals. And two, there must be a complete cutoff of communications at all levels with central command. Under those conditions, it is the general or the colonel in charge of the regiment or the division does not necessarily have to fire the missiles, but he has authorization to do so. So what you've done is to spread nuclear launch authority out over as many as 100 people, relatively junior in the command chain. This is unbelievably dangerous. Anyway, the open question now, I think, is that with the change in American doctrine, some American writers, there's an article in Foreign Affairs that actually said that it would be possible to preempt the Russian nuclear deterrent. There's already, of course, talk that would be possible, perhaps even at conventional level with China. The inevitable effect of this is the countries are going to come to see, as Iran has, as North Korea has, that perhaps their very national survival will require a major increase or either acquisition of nuclear weapons or a major increase in the nuclear weapons arsenals that they already have. So, folks, we are now in the second nuclear arms race. And we are in there because of, primarily because of aggressive warfighting doctrines of the United States, and we are going to pay for this unless we back away from this pretty damn soon.
We sent men to the moon. It is a lifeless ball of rock. We sent robots to sample the sands of Mars. The Sahara Desert has more life. We have sampled the rain on Venus. It is hot sulfuric acid. Jupiter and Saturn, we know, are giant balls of frozen gas. Our messages to the closest stars remain unanswered.
Despite the fact that America, as we've just been told, is changing the rules to having the ability to preemptively use nuclear weapons, the systems that they have aimed at each other still are based on the old principle of mutually assured destruction. They have a system which, if one side fires, the other side responds, and of course destroys the world in the process, but one of them feels they've won the war. It's a system of the first strike, that's the first wave being sent, and immediately you have a warning of that, you respond and send the strike back. It's what I would call two strikes and you're out system. Now you should remember what the first and second strike are meant to do. The first strike is meant to knock out the opponent's command system and nuclear weapon silos. The second strike is directed at cities. And like all wars nowadays, of course, the major casualties are civilians. we really have to say is this system foolproof? And we obviously know that it isn't. The one I particularly like, the mistake I particularly like, happened relatively recently. In fact, in January 25th, 1995, when the Russian warning system detected a rocket launch off the Arctic coast of Norway, where the United States submarines are roaming. Over the next several minutes, President Yeltsin, I hope sober at the time, was informed that the nuclear briefcase was opened. Tension mounted as the rocket separated into several pieces. The crisis ended after a few minutes before the deadline to respond, when it became clear that the missile was going out to sea and was not directed at Russia. It, in fact, was a Norwegian weather satellite launch, which had been notified to Russian authorities that it was going to happen. But unfortunately, these things do happen in bureaucracies, that message hasn't got down to the people in charge of monitoring nuclear missiles. A few years ago, when Veterans Against Nuclear Arms were energetic enough and mobile enough to have national conventions, I met Colonel John Barr, a retired nuclear warrior. He worked in Cheyenne Mountain, where he was responsible for the launching of the second strike wave of weapons directed at multiple United States citizens, Russian cities. He told us that every night when he kissed his children good night, he had this appalling thought of what he'd been doing all day long. So that's the situation that all of us are living at the present moment. 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, groups of military personnel are sitting in front of computer monitor screens and other mechanisms, making the decision, is that blip on the screen an important one? So for many years now, it's been recognized as that there's a major risk. In fact, Robert McNamara, when he was still Secretary of Defense, wrote to President Kennedy and said that launch on warning should not be adopted. It has been suggested that nuclear weapons should be taken off hair trigger alert in some way. The Campbell Commission on the Elimination of Nuclear Weapons in 1995 recommended that such steps should be taken. These are 1986 maps. You can't read them. It doesn't matter, but remember, this shows you how confused it is. These are maps of Montana, Missouri, and most part of North Dakota, and the part that they join together. All those little black dots are connected with nuclear missile silos. The military are still keyed to the idea of deterrence. It's quite illogical to maintain launch on warning. What I believe is that if everybody realized that at any moment now that somebody's going to make a decision that may launch the nuclear holocaust, and it's happening all the time. Once you realize the risk we're all running, then maybe we can make us even more energetic in our efforts to get rid of nuclear weapons. Vanner believes that given all the other threats to peace that the world faces and is working to correct, there is one threat that must be eliminated, and that is the destruction of the world by accident.
Mother Earth is very rare. Mother Earth is very precious. Mother Earth is sacred. It is time for us, her children, to grow up. We can no longer take her for granted. We can no longer pretend that she cannot die. We must abolish all nuclear weapons. And no religion.